All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Conversations on Retail. My name is Matt Pfeiffer, and Mike would make fun of me if I didn't give the weather report this morning. It's a beautiful day in Northwest Arkansas. We're so excited to be back with our friend Mike Graen, the host of our on-shelf availability series, and he continues that series today in a conversation with Dr. Bill Hardgrave, president at the University of Memphis. They'll be talking about omni-channel retailing in 2024 and what you need to know. Just a couple things in the way of housekeeping as we get started. First of all, I want to thank the University of Arkansas for sponsoring or for partnering with us in this series. The series is presented by the Walton Supply Chain Center at the University of Arkansas, the #1 undergraduate supply chain program for 2 years in a row and possibly 3. And Mike may comment on that in a moment. And it's also sponsored by some great partners at Brain Corp, at Barcoding, at Williott, at Fusion, SES and Magatag, at Taupin, and at Simba Robotics. In case you missed it, Mr. Graen has put up quite a body of work with us, all focused on shelf availability. And that list has gotten too long to include on one slide, but you can check it all out at youtube.com/@conversationsonretail. Couple last things. If you are joining us live, and we're expecting a good number to be on eventually, just a reminder that this is intended to be a conversation and not a presentation, and we would encourage you to actively participate. And you can do so quite simply by clicking on the Q&A button in Zoom and submitting your questions or comments in writing. Mike will see those, and as appropriate, we'll interject those into the conversation. Mike also likes for me to mention, and it's probably not as relevant for this conversation, but everything we do and say needs to be in compliance with federal antitrust laws. We're not going to be talking about anything ever related to pricing, margin, discounts, et cetera, et cetera. Lastly, the opinions and recommendations expressed by Mike and his guests are those of their own and not necessarily those of Conversations on Retail. So make sure before you act on those that you consider their suitability for your own circumstances. So with the lawyering out of the way, Mr. Graen, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you happen to be joining us from. Matt, you're going to have to update your forecast because this is a beautiful day, but we're about to get 3 days of downpour. I think I'm going to go to the lumber yard and build an ark because we need some lumber, and I need to build. I need to build a boat pretty quick because it's supposed to rain like crazy for the next 3 days.
The lake could use a little water. Honestly.
I know. I guess that's true. That's true. All good things must come to an end. So, Dr. Hardgrave, it is great to see you once again. We talked about a year ago or so. I know you and I have talked several times since then. But you've actually taken the bait to agree to join this again to talk about omnichannel. For those of you who don't know Dr. Hardgrave, go ahead and introduce yourself and let the folks know who you are.
Hey, Mike. Well, hey, thanks for having me on. Despite the disaster the last time I was on your show, you invited me back. So thanks for inviting me back again. And since we're giving weather reports, I'm in Washington, D.C. today, and it is raining here today. So
love it.
I guess maybe it's going to move your way or something. But happy to be here. I've known Mike for a very long time, when I was at the University of Arkansas and then through my days at Auburn, and now happy to serve as the president of the University of Memphis for the last 2 years.
Incredible. What are you doing in Washington, D.C.? You're supposed to be in Memphis, solving all Memphis's problems, right?
Well, part of the way we can solve those problems in Memphis is through our representation here in Washington, D.C. So
okay.
Get up here, a few times a year and visit with our delegations and make sure that they are aware of what's important to us. And I think we've got a really good reception from our congressmen and women and our senators, and it's just part of what we have to do as a university and part of what I have to do as the president.
That's awesome. So I've known you. I mean, you mentioned it, so let's just build on that. You and I met when we started doing this crazy innovative technology called radio frequency identification. I think it was like 2003, 2004, something like that. You were part of the University of Arkansas staff. You had the leadership and initiative to start at the University of Arkansas RFID lab.
Yeah.
And then you said, well, bigger opportunities await us. So I'm going to go to Auburn. And you became the dean of the business school at Auburn. And not only did you do that, but you brought the lab with you, which is fascinating, how you pulled that one off, which was outstanding. And then got promoted to provost of Auburn. And then just recently, I guess a couple of years ago, got a chance to take a role as the president of the University of Memphis. What in the world? And then somehow you have time to stay relevant to all of this omni-channel and RFID retail technologies. Do you ever sleep? I mean, how in the world do you get all this stuff done? Crazy.
Mike, I'm blessed that I've been able to, in my time in higher education, to kind of straddle that fence between higher education and industry. And I'm gonna correct you, Mike. And so don't get upset when I correct you on something. It was before RFID that you and I worked together. You forget that the class that I was teaching, we did a project on Retail Link when you were at P&G. And you were the representative. I have class projects, and you just beat those poor students up. And that was, I believe, Mike, that was 1999. So,
oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Yes, yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. It's so anyway. So for all those joining us today, Mike and I have known each other for a very long time, and Mike's an incredible voice and force in retail, and I'm blessed to be here as well. But Mike, I it has been one of these interesting journeys where I've transitioned from business before I went into higher education, and just been able to kind of do both and work with great companies like Walmart, and got started with Walmart in their RFID project when they made that announcement in 2003, and they've just kind of kept with it along the way. And RFID has broadened up to certainly be a tool, but just beyond that, retail technologies and things that I know we'll talk about today with serialized data and identification and all those things. So the lab, the lab started as a genesis there from Walmart in 2003, and when they started that effort and announced that they wanted their top 100 suppliers tagging pallets and cases, they Dan Phillips was at Walmart at that time as a VP, and I was doing some projects for Walmart, and Dan said, hey, Bill, I actually was badged. I was at Walmart so much, and what happened to be up there, and Dan saw me walking by, pulled me in and said, hey, Bill, what do you know about RFID? And I said, well, I can spell it. And he said, good enough. Let's get you, I want you to get started on this project. And, and things just took off from there. And Walmart wanted us to have a lab there at the University of Arkansas to help the suppliers, because you think back 2003, nobody really knew what this technology was, and Walmart was certainly on the forefront of that. So we had the first foray that we did in the lab was to help the suppliers know how do you tag a pallet and a case at that time. And of course, the lab has kept that laser focus on the business value of RFID, right? It's just, how do you make that technology work for you? How do you get business value out of it? And the lab is, as you said, we grew a lot at Arkansas, and then when I made the move to Auburn, it followed me to Auburn, and Justin Patton and the crew down there in Synthel have just done a fantastic job at that lab.
100% agree. Couldn't say it better. By the way, that lab I was talking, I'm still very actively involved with the lab, as you are as well. Play a very important role, and continuing to kind of lead that work, etc. Justin told me the other day he has over 100 students now working part-time, not only on internal projects, but projects with retailers, with brandos, etc. And just to probably put you on the spot and embarrass you, one of the key ones is your son. He is following in your footsteps and doing a lot of really, really great stuff. And it's just amazing, because you think about universities, the primary role of a university, even though you're in Washington doing whatever you're doing today, is to educate and equip students to take jobs in the industry. What a great way to have 100 students working on projects with retailers. If you think they're going to hire somebody, who they're going to hire? The person they've been working with the last 6 months. It's just an incredible opportunity. And your son is just doing some great stuff at the various companies he's been working with.
Yeah, and that's been the focus, since we started the lab. Is it's always been predominantly um, uh, housed by students. I mean, that's who serves
Mhm.
as the workers there, and it's
Sure.
we've only had a handful of full-time workers over its 20-year life, and
Mhm.
it's all been students. I mean, thousands of think about this in its 20-year life, thousands of students have worked at the lab and moved
Mhm.
on uh,
Mhm.
to uh, to great jobs in industry and graduate school and that type of thing. And it makes me feel a little old, Mike, that my son was 2 years old when I started this effort
Oh my
with
gosh.
Walmart.
Come here, Gavin. I want to put a tag on your diaper. Let's see who chased you around the house with. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Well, let me one more kind of just career. You've got to have people that are assistant professors, associate professors, thinking about moving in, who are coming to you and going, "How do I go from what I am today to being the president of the university?" What are your keys to success? What are the kinds of things you would tell them in terms of, hey, I want to follow what you've tried to do and the career progress you've made? Um, Talk to us about what are the key success factors from your point of view.
Well, I wish I could say that I had a plan and executed on that plan, but Mike, throughout my career, I've just been open when a door opens to look at that
Mhm.
opportunity, and sometimes you say no thanks, but more often than not, I looked at it and said, okay, that I can do that, and that looks a
Yeah.
little bit different,
Yeah.
and I would have never dreamed that I would have been a president of a university, and never dreamed that I would have been in higher education. I first in my
Mm.
family to go to college, actually first in my family to graduate high school, and uh,
Wow.
and so for me to have that, I didn't have that vision because you can't be what you can't see, and I never saw that, and so just fortunate that all along my career, people have been put in my path and have opened some doors. And I've just, one thing my dad did teach me. My dad was a construction worker. Was
Yep.
well, what just work hard and
Yeah.
hard work, makes up a lot. And Mike, you've been around me a long time. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I can outwork most.
Yeah.
And and I still hold on to that today. I will. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm going to do hard work, and
Yep.
and I try to treat others as I want to be treated. As a leader, I've always been a servant leader, which means I put others in front of what I'm trying to do, and
Yep.
on a daily basis. And I've said this actually since I've been a dean and provost and now president, is I tell everybody who works at the university, whether it's somebody who's cutting the grass or somebody who's a VP, I tell them two things. My job as president, and when it was provost and dean, same thing. Two things: get you the resources you need to do your job, and remove the hurdles for you so you can do your job.
Wow.
And people need to let me know what resources they need or what hurdles get in their way, and I'll do my best to take care of those.
That's tremendous. One of my favorite questions when I had people reporting to me was, "What's help look like?" And there's
What
a
what
lot of people that can't answer that. "Oh, I'm good from good." No,
what does
you
what?
have a list. What's help look like? What does help look like?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you
yeah,
can't,
right. Yeah,
if you come in here and lay out these challenges you've got, but then you can't answer the question, "What's help look like?" Then go
yeah,
think about that question, because I want to help you,
yeah,
but you got to tell me what help looks like, because
yep,
otherwise I'll do stuff that doesn't look like help
yep,
for sure.
yep. That's
So
it. That's it. Yep,
that's
yep,
awesome. Well, let's get into omni-channel,
yep.
because
Yeah.
gosh,
Let's
we
do it.
could talk for another 45 minutes on just this kind of career advice. But in addition to your day job, which is running a full-time university, which is incredible, you've also had the ability to have your, as we talked before, very, very laser focused on retail technology, retail supply chain,
Yep.
retail, specifically RFID. And that's morphed into more of an omni-channel focus, because part of the technology suite that solves product location and knowing what you have and where's it located in the store also can be used to use that for omni-channel purposes. So the purpose of this is really just to talk about the state of omni-channel, and that's really where you've spent a lot of your time over the last several years, just focusing on omni-channel. So Tell us a little bit about the omni-channel business. Why did you choose this field, and how has it changed over time?
Well, it really, at least from this idea of channels, right? And you think about the work we were doing with Walmart, and at the time that we were doing that, right? You think about the late 90s, early 2000s, the internet, had been around, but it was really at an early age, right? Think about, 2003, 2004, the iPhone didn't exist, right?
Mm.
So having everything in the palm of your hand didn't exist. And so what we saw was that, retailers, who had traditional channels, and, then they started adding these e-commerce channels. In fact, Mike, do you have I think I've
I
got a
do.
slide there. If
I do.
you pull up that first slide, I think that it might put some context here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Matt, you're going to have to let me participate on the screen sharing, please. Go ahead and talk through it, and while we
Okay.
get that up. Yep.
So we had retailers who had traditional channels. Again, the Walmarts, the Target, Macy's of the world, who had storefronts, and people came in, and what we think about as traditional retail. And then then we had the growing e-commerce. Of course, Amazon would come to mind, but many others at the time. And what we saw then during that time was traditional retailers like Walmart adding an e-commerce channel. And one of the things that most retailers did, and Walmart did this, was it was actually completely separate business unit. And I mean, completely different team, different systems, different locations, and they treat it as two different things. And that's fine, because you went from a single channel to multiple channels, but the channels didn't interact. The e-commerce, if you bought something from online store, retailer A online, the traditional didn't have any visibility into that, and vice versa. And in fact, we saw retailers, Mike, I know you saw this, is that they built fulfillment centers that were just for the online business, and there was no crossover of those things. And so, there you go, got it. And so what we saw then was, that was certainly value add, but it created these multi-channels. And so we saw these proliferations, and then what we saw was, well, the pure online, you think about those, that's still a uni-channel, right? Still one channel. So an Amazon was just one channel. Well, you can't serve the vast majority of customers with just one channel. So we started seeing Amazon, right, add physical spaces. And we saw that even with, you think about Warby Parker and all, other places where they started just online. They realized, oh, wait a second, we've got to have multiple channels. So we went from, unichannel and traditional e-commerce to multi-channel, but they weren't truly integrated, and they didn't have one view of the customer, and they didn't treat inventory the same across those channels. And that's really what led to omni-channel, right? This idea of omni-channel, having the product when, how, and where she wants it, and having one seamless view of that customer. And so in doing so several years ago, if you go to the next slide, I came up with something that, Justin, the guys at the lab, you like to joke about. And if they're watching today, I can guarantee you they're falling out of their chair laughing, because this is what I call the omni-channel house. And I did this to try to put it in simple perspective of, hey, what are the pieces to being an omni-channel retailer? And this grew out of a time. I think I first did this slide, Mike, in at the time I made this house. I think it was in 2016. This was how long ago we started talking about omni-channel. And at the time that I did this, I think about 80% of them at that time said, oh yeah, we're omni-channel. Well, we don't have 80% of them are omni-channel today. And, and I think it was just maybe more wishful thinking than anything. But this kind of lays out, hey, what do you need to be omni-channel? And it's in this whole idea of, you've got to have inventory accuracy. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. And I put RFID enabled inventory accuracy, because I still believe that the only way you get reliable, accurate, and cost efficient way to have inventory accuracy is via RFID. You've got to blend the physical and digital channels together. You have to have visibility to that single unit. And then you have things like buy online, pick up in store, and ship from store, which are characteristics. And there's other characteristics there. All of that, of course, leading to that, that superior customer experience. But this was just, something to show to say, look, if you're thinking about omnichannel, you can't say, oh, I've got buy online, pick up in store, and that's what I'm going to do, and that makes me omnichannel. No. You've got to have interaction. You've got to blend the digital and physical channels. You've got to have visibility of that single unit, and then you can do these other things.
I know we're going to get to this here in a little bit, but what I find interesting is you started this conversation off saying when we first started, devices like this were not even available. Right. And really the retailer was in control of the messaging and the product assortment, et cetera. Now your superior customer experience is almost at the bottom of this. It's foundational, because if I want a specific item, I no longer have any connections to retailer. My loyalty is not to the retailer. My loyalty is the item I'm looking for, because I have all kinds of options with this device.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that would be very interesting is, we'll get into some of this later, but the folks who don't get that, if they're in retail and don't think that availability is ultimately in the responsibility of the customer, wake up, because you're not going to be around long, because people have options. And if you don't carry it, they're going to use your Wi-Fi and order it from somebody else and have it delivered to their house. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Mike, that's, one of the things we have to think about from a historical perspective as well. There's generally what we see is the three eras of retail. And you think about when retail, the beginnings of retail, and, let's just go back. I mean, retail's been around for a long time, but let's just go back to the, late 1800s, early 1900s, retail 1.0. Suppliers were in charge, right? Those who made the products, because they decided who could sell their products and for how much they would charge. And then as we got more retailers involved and the retailers got bigger, well, then we shifted to retail 2.0, where retailers were in charge, right? Because then retailers decided what to sell and how much to charge. But now, in the last 10 years, we have clearly shifted to retail 3.0, where customers are in charge. Customers, to your point, and that's why I wanted to bring this up, because customers demand anywhere, anytime, any product retailing. And if you as a retailer don't have it, or don't have it where I want it, when I want it, they will use this and they'll find it. Right. And there is the customer's in charge. And if you're a retailer who doesn't believe that, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you've got a couple of practical examples here and a couple of other slides about how it's evolved and changed. I think this would be really helpful to have you cover these. Talk to us the importance of inventory accuracy in the traditional model, and then what does it mean when we go to an omni-channel platform?
Well, and thanks for putting up the slides. One of the things that we've looked at for some time is how important inventory accuracy is. But for those who've been around retail for a long time, inventory accuracy was just one of those things that you accepted as, well, it's not going to be real accurate. And you actually, retailers built business processes around having inaccurate inventory information. And I kind of laugh because it seems silly to do that, but in the absence of being able to have good inventory accuracy, you have to build systems around it, right? And inventory accuracy outside of an omni-channel is pretty straightforward. So you think about a store, and it's just a storefront, traditional retail. Well, inventory accuracy obviously impacts your forecast and your replenishment, which impacts your product availability, your customer satisfaction, your sales. It's pretty straightforward. And we know that, hey, if we can turn that dial on inventory accuracy, well, we can really very quickly impact sales. And we saw that in a non-omni-channel environment in the early days of RFID, of retailers going, holy cow, you mean I can get my inventory accuracy from 65% to 98%? Whoa, that unlocks, right, a lot of this customer experience and sales. But when you then layer in omni-channel and the things that come with omni-channel that we just, I showed you from the omni-channel house, if you can go to the next slide, it gets much more complicated, right? Because inventory accuracy then plays a much bigger role because it's not just about your forecast replenishment, but it's about, well, can I ship from the store? Do I have it in the store? Can I have visibility to it at the store? That impacts the inventory that we have. It impacts the buy online, pick up in store, and research online, buy in store. All of that, which impacts, statistics as unplanned purchases. It becomes a much more complicated, but much more impactful element in the journey to increasing your sales. And that's where RFID that we've seen, when you can turn that dial from 65% to 98%, for example, well, that changes what you can do as a retailer. And conversely, Mike, in an omni-channel world, if you have poor inventory accuracy, you're in a world of hurt, because you can't do such things as be effective at buy online, pick up in store. You can't be effective in ship from store. And if you can't do those, your competitors will figure out a way to do it.
Great point. So you got a couple terms here. I think people have heard of Bopus before, which is buy online, pick up in store. You very quickly said research. What is Ropus? I know I've heard it before many times, but I'm not sure the audience has. What is Ropus?
So Ropus is research online, buy in store. And it's a pretty simple concept, because I'm sure that most everybody who listening in, watching today, has done that. And that's where you say, look, I want to go buy a new toaster. Let me go see if Walmart has what they have in toasters and what they have. Oh, I like this one. Do they have it in stock? And I researched 6 different toasters. I found the one I want. It shows it's in stock. Now I'm going to drive to Walmart and pick it up. 74% of retailers, 74% of consumers last year did that at least one time. And what we know is that number, you get in the habit of doing that. I do it all the time. Before I go to the store and buy something of any consequence, even something like a toaster, I'll go online, find what I'm looking for, then see if it's in stock. And you know what, Mike, if I went to if I found the toaster I wanted and I went to Walmart and said, you don't have that one in stock, what I do? Then I look at Target and I say, okay, does Target have, no, they don't have it. I will find a retailer who has it, and I'll drive there and buy that. Without good inventory accuracy, right? Retailers aren't showing that inventory. You're missing out. I mean, retailers really miss out on these, and we call those hidden lost sales, because as a retailer, you don't even know that you've lost that sale, because you never gave that opportunity for that sale to ever occur.
They came in, they looked around, they left empty-handed. They have no idea you disappointed them. None.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. It's because this isn't like adding something to the cart, and then abandoning your cart. You can keep up with that as a retailer, but you don't know when somebody comes in, looks around, and abandons, and just drops out of your website because they saw that you didn't have that in stock. Right? There's no way to know that. So there's this hidden cost to poor inventory accuracy.
All right, here's the big question.
Yep.
You just said 74%. I never heard that number before. 74% of consumers routinely log on to check availability of product.
Yep.
But my perception is very few retailers have the courage or systems to deliver that data. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I can think of 3 or 4 retailers that actually say only 3 left, only 1 left. Most of them say check store for availability, which is just frustrating, because you're basically saying, I'm not telling you, even if I know.
Yep.
Talk to us about that trend, because if we've got 74% of customers routinely looking for that, what about the ones that don't do that? And what are the potential risks in terms of their loyalty?
Well, so that number is you think about it, right? 74% of consumers went out and researched online before they wanted to go to the store and buy. And at first you look at that number and go, wow, that's a really high number. But think about it, right? I mean, we almost everyone does that now at some point, right? Mm-hmm. In the retail, whatever they may be buying. But now then the flip side of that is, as of last year, and we did a pretty extensive study in the last few years on buy online, pick up in store. Only 17% of the retailers, as of last year, when we last updated the study, actually displayed in-store quantities on their website.
Wow.
So now let's say I've done a research online, buy in store, right? And I go looking for this toaster. Now, retailers who are confident in their inventory, we're seeing them put their inventory out there, and they say, yeah, we have 3, quantity is 3. But we'll see others, it'll just say in stock, and they don't tell you how many's in stock. And then you have the question, do you really have it in stock? And I've had experience, and I shared this at a presentation I did late last year, where I was buying a ladder. And I won't mention the home improvement store, but a ladder. These are big things, right? And I was looking at a particular ladder. The local home improvement store said, yes, we have it. So I went to the store to get this ladder. I go in, can't find this ladder anywhere. So I find somebody, chase somebody down. It takes a while to find somebody to actually help you in the store. Say, hey, I'm looking for this ladder. They've got their little handheld. They said, oh, yeah, we've got 6 of them. So my first thought was, well, if you show on your handheld that you have 6 of them, why didn't you show me online that I have 6 of them? But that's a separate issue, right? Well, we've got 6 of them. So, well, where are they? They looked all over the place. Couldn't find. How do you lose 6 ladders? And I walked out of there empty-handed. They did not have. So, but Mike, the reason I shared that is for 2 reasons. One is the showing it online, but 2, their inventory was so inaccurate. The reason they didn't show me the quantity online, because they didn't actually know how many they had. They thought they had 6, so they thought it was safe to, at least online, say, yeah, we're in stock. But now here's the downside of that. Do you think I'll go back to that home improvement retailer the next time I need something like that? No, because I don't trust that they will have it when I get there.
Yeah. By the way, did you find the ladder?
I went to another home improvement center.
Did they expose the on hands?
Yes, they did, actually. Yes, because
were they right?
While I was standing in the store, frustrated at the first one, I went online, found it at the second one. It showed me that I went over there and I actually bought it.
We're not going to say blue or orange, but yeah,
no, we will not.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Okay. That's all. Well, the fascinating part to me is, and we're not going to call out specific retailers. That's not appropriate.
Right.
But here's the soundbite for me. 74% of consumers are going to see if the product's available online.
Yep.
And 17% of the retailers actually expose their on hands. What would be interesting as a research project for somebody in your astute organization, which is, how many of them are actually leveraging RFID? So they should be up in the 95%, but they still don't expose their on hands. And why don't they do that?
Well, I will tell you this, that of the RFID adopters, 96% offer Bopus, ship to store, and the omni-channel elements or characteristics, versus only 60% of retailers who don't use RFID, they don't offer Bopus and ship from store and those type of things.
But I would argue Bopus, forget about inventory accuracy and RFID. Bopus is jacks to enter. If you don't do that in today's retail environment, you're done.
Oh, I agree. But if you think about, why wouldn't a retailer offer Bopus? It's because they don't have any confidence in their inventory.
Right.
I mean, they don't have any confidence.
Yeah, what I'm asking is a different question.
Well, it is. Yeah.
We know there are big players out there, especially in the apparel. Yeah. I mean, we haven't received 100% saturation, but there's a big chunk of the retail industry right now, especially the major players out there that are already using RFID for apparel.
Yeah,
but they still don't expose on hands to customers.
Yeah,
right.
And they absolutely should. Right.
Well, And I think they should as well. I think the problem is, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, I don't want to jump into it now, is they may say I have 4 of those, but they may not have 4 to sell. So 2 of them, we talked about this example before. 2 of them, let's just say if it's a television set, 2 of them, one of them could be in the back room in the claims department. We do have it, but it's not available for sale because the customer just returned it.
Right.
The other one is hanging on a wall showing customers, yes, we have it, but unfortunately it's not available for sale. So just exposing how many I have could give a false expectation to a customer saying, I got 3, I can go get them. Now, really, I only have 1 available for sale, and that one's moving around the store right now in a customer's cart, so I don't have any.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out how to solve that problem before you expose inventory. But to me, of the retailers that are using RFID, how in the world do you start to share the actual how many? I mean, Target does a great job. Only 3 left. Great marketing people. Only 2 left. Come pick it up now, right?
Yeah. Right.
And they're very confident to be able to do that. I'm just surprised that other retailers are not adopting that methodology.
Well, as am I, right? And they're going to have to. And you're right about the visibility to that. And if you're doing buy online, pick up in store, and let's shift our thinking to that, buy online, pick up in store. Normally, what happens is when we go out and let's say you're going to buy that TV, you go to the website and you say, this is the TV I want. I'm gonna buy it. I'll pick it up in the store. And the retailer, the good ones, and most are doing this now. They say, okay, we'll let you know when that item's ready, right?
Yep.
And so if it shows that they had 4, and then they go look and go, oh man, this one's not ready for sale. This one's on the wall, and customers just picked up the other 2. Darn, we don't have any for sale. Well, they can let that consumer. The consumer's going to be very disappointed because they can't pick it up. But I've started seeing retailers do this lately, where you come back and they say, you know what, we don't have it. We will ship it to you and get it there to you, tomorrow. In major metropolitan areas, they will say, we'll get it to you today. You were going to come pick it up. We can't get it to you because you want to go pick up the store, but we'll get it to you today. Or, hey, we've got another store that's in another part of town that has it. Do you want to pick it up there? So they're doing a much better job. Some, not all. Some still you just get an email that says, I'm sorry, we don't have that product in stock. And as soon as you do that, you if this is a national brand item, you've lost that customer.
Yep. So we've got a question from the audience, and I think is a really fair one to kind of talk through this. This is Ursula has a question. If inventory accuracy is so key, why is it so hard for retailers to prioritize it? In fact, it's a task that gets deprioritized many times. Is there a better way to sell the importance of inventory accuracy to the C-suite, maybe connected to it bearer to the bottom line? You speak to a lot of C-level folks. How do you get them? Because inventory accuracy, it's sort of like, it's just one of those KPI that feels like an in-process thing. How's that going to affect my sales, et cetera? But it's a critical part of doing that. How do you get the right level of people get excited about what they think is probably an in-process measurement, which is inventory accuracy?
Mike, I've been evangelizing inventory accuracy for 15 plus years now, and you think it's almost common sense, and I appreciate the question, because it is like, well, if it's so important, why wouldn't a retailer want high inventory accuracy? And I have the opportunity to be invited in to talk to C-suite folks about inventory accuracy, and I'll relate to you one. And again, I'm obviously not going to mention any names. And I knew I was coming in to talk about inventory accuracy, and this was the CEO, the CFO, the head, person in store ops, and I mean, there are 8 or 10 people in the room. So we go in to talk about inventory accuracy and the importance of that, and so I'm about halfway into talking about it, and the CEO turns to the head of supply chain and over store ops and said, "What is our inventory accuracy?" And the person said, 99%, sir. Well, what they didn't know is I'd actually send a team from the lab to audit stores before I went and had this meeting. and their inventory accuracy was south of 60%.
Mm-hmm.
So first thought is, well, is that person lying to the CEO? And the answer is no. It is it's the way that they have been measuring inventory accuracy and the way that they ought to measure inventory accuracy. So when I talk about inventory accuracy, I'm talking about accuracy at the SKU level, right? So if somebody wants this T-shirt in white V-neck of this size, then that's a SKU. And if you have it or you don't, it's either accurate or it's not, right?
Yep.
But the way many retailers still measure this is they measure by category. And they say, they measure actually from a financial side in some cases, but if not the financial side, they just measure it from each. As they say, you know what, in the T-shirt category, we should have 1,000 packages of T-shirts, and we have 990. So we're at 99%, right? And that's just not inventory accuracy, because that's not consumer level inventory accuracy.
Right.
Right? The consumer, they don't care that you have 990 packages of T-shirts. They care that you have this white V-neck in a large.
Yep.
That's what they care about. And so part of it is a shift in the way that retailers have been thinking about that, because some retailers measure on that category level. Some measure just on a financial level. As they say, oh, we should have $10,000 worth of T-shirts. We have $9,900 worth of T-shirts. And so therefore it's 99%. We have to shift that focus. That goes back to the eras of retail. The consumer is in charge, and we've got to think about the consumer facing SKU and getting that inventory accuracy up so that we can get visibility and accuracy to the single unit. That's the key.
Yep. And I think, Ursula, just to build on that, it is incredibly insightful, because I would said consumer facing, and it's at the store item unit level kind of thing. So the first thing I do is I'd go find some examples where you don't think it is, to debate that number, because usually it's not somebody trying to deceive the CEO. Usually it's, hey, we're at 99% accuracy. And Dr. Hardgrave, you and I worked with one retailer that they would take 47 different, but if it's on a Tuesday and it's after 3 o'clock, then it's this, and oh, we're at 99% accurate. No, you're not. You put a bunch of caveats in there, but when you look at it through the consumer's eyes, the shopper's eyes, you're not 99%. You're disappointing your customers all the time. And by the way, just for a quick soundbite, it's amazing. Forget omnichannel for a second. There are 3 pieces of data that you need to know when you need product from a warehouse to a store. How much do I have, which is my on hand? How much do I think I'm going to sell, which is my sales forecast? And if I order it today, when will I get it? That's lead time.
Yep.
Well, 2 out of 3 of those are probably wrong. The on-hand accuracy and the sales forecast are probably wrong. So we got 3 numbers. 2 of them are probably wrong. It's amazing we got as much stuff on the shelf as we did. And that's why we've got full back rooms, all kinds of stuff, because we don't want to run out of product, but it's really because we've got a fundamental replenishment. The data, garbage in, garbage out. When you feed bad data, and bad things happen.
Yep.
All right. Let me change gears a little bit. Let's go back to on-hand accuracy is important. Unfortunately, one of the things, especially when we get outside of apparel, there are factors that determine whether a product is available to sell or not. Okay. The example that I used is the televisions. I've got a television on the wall. I've got a television on the display showing a video. I've got one back in claims, etc. So yes, I have 3 televisions. That specific store item has 3. But none of them are available for sale because they're all preoccupied for something else. Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about something that I call item serialization, and I'll share my screen real quick for those of you who haven't seen it. I think this is a really important kind of topic that we talk through. This is not a serialization conversation, because we've had several of those before, but the basic UPC is a UPC, which we've all seen for years. It's UPC quantity. UPC is this, and I've got 24 of them. Great. Thank you very much. What RFID does, and what frankly GS1 Sunrise 2027 does, is start to leverage serialized data. So it adds a UPC to it. It adds a unique serial number. Those two combined together are actually the itemized serial number. So I don't just have a UPC and a quantity of 50. I have 1 of 50, 2 of 50, 3 of 50. I have the ability to assign attributes and selling capability to each one of those items. I know we've talked about this forever, Dr. Hardgrave, but I don't think it's inappropriate to continue. People who are implementing systems have got to be able to capture and maintain that lower level of inventory and serial numbers, and not just get the real easy thing, which is, oh, I found 50 of those. Let me just put on hand of 50. Talk to us about the role. I'll stop sharing my screen. Talk to us about the role that this item serialization, which is inherently part of RFID, the way it works, and how is it going to continue to allow retailers to be able to expose their on hands to customers?
Yeah, and that's thanks for bringing that up, because that really is the key. And again, although I've worked in RFID for a long time, when you parse RFID, right? RF is the technology side. ID is really, separately. They don't mean much. You put them together. RFID is just a data carrier. It's going to carry that serial number. But if you don't do anything with that serial number, RFID can't really help you. And you've got to have that visibility, from as close to point of manufacture as you can. You get that item level down to the individually talked about visibility to that single unit. That's where it comes in with inventory accuracy, right? Because now I know exactly what I have. There's differentiation even among, if I've got 50 white V-neck t-shirts of size large, I've got 50 different serial numbers, because I know exactly what we have in those. Here is what concerns me, Mike, about serialization in where we're at right now, and it is contributing to our inventory accuracy issue, is even some of those that are using RFID, their systems are not set up to use the data. Their systems are all based upon UPC. And so what they do is they get RFID, they read all this data, then they collapse it into the UPC. Well, as soon as you collapse that data, you've lost all the richness of the serial number. Now, that's easy for me to say, because and harder for retailers to do, because all of their systems are built on that UPC level. All their master data is built around that. And to take a shift from that to serialization, that's a huge, huge systems change. You think about everything that it impacts, right? Where we used to look at things at UPS, now, or not UPS, UPC, and now we're looking.
They appreciate the free plug. Good job.
And
don't you live in Memphis?
Yes,
FedEx, yeah, good job. Good job.
So, let me make sure I mention FedEx while I'm here. But they lose all that richness, and that's one thing that I see that retailers really were not thinking that far ahead of. Oh, okay, well, now I've got this serialized data. How do I store it, and what do I do with it? And now we're seeing retailers, well, let me store it over here, and it'll be separate from my system, and we'll collapse it and try to use it. And it gets very convoluted. And I think, Mike, that contributes to part of the issue that we're having.
Well, and I think the other part, and here's the unlock, it's hard, because all of our legacy systems are built on UPC quantity. Everything, our entire supply chain, our EDI platform, everything is built on UPC quantity. Here's what's going to unlock that. What's going to unlock that is the additional use cases beyond the store. I think will help that. This whole opportunity for the elimination of claims, or the dispute of claims, of product authentication. You ship me Nike product. No, it's not a Nike product. It's rip-off product. Those are the kinds of problems you can solve when we've got this great platform called EPCIS as part of the GS1 standards.
Exactly.
That's been around for 20 years. We've never really, in my opinion, we've never really taken advantage of it. And we did the chip project with Auburn University while you were still there. And we're still talking about trying to create a platform that allows us to be able to share that lower level of serialized data across the supply chain to solve these big problems. It's hard. It is really, really hard lift to do, but we're going to get there. People are going to figure out how to get there. But to me, that's how you stop just summarize it up and say UPC quantity, because I need that information to dispute these claims that is going on in this authentication. And obviously people like pharmaceutical and food, et cetera, they leverage that RFID serialized data to do a lot more than just UPC quantity. So we'll get there. It's been a painful process to try and break that, because everybody just wants to make the easy UPC quantity and be done with it. Right.
Yeah. I agree. And I tell you one bright spot, and it encourages me though, is with Sunrise 2027, right? And introducing that at the point of sale via, a scan, where you can scan it, and using existing scanners to be able to do that. I'm very encouraged, because that will help drive that serial number to checkout. Then when you marry that with an RFID tag on there that gives you that visibility all along the supply chain, I think that will maybe that catalyst, Mike, that will push people to, hey, we've got to have serialization. Now, look, again, it's, as you said, it's a heavy lift. I mean, it's to go from your systems being UPC to serialized data. It's a heavy lift, but I think that Sunrise 2027 is going to help companies go there and start unlocking this. And you're exactly right about all these other unlocks from shrink, to gray market, to black market, to all these things. Well, you get that unlock with a serial that you can't serialize information that you can't get with UPC.
Yeah. The one thing I'm talking to GS1 about, maybe you could help me plug this as well. I think in addition to the EPC symbol on every RFID enabled product, we need to have a 2D barcode representing that unique serial number on it as well. Well, why would I want to do that? Because you know how long it takes to do those things. But if I get rid of the UPC on that label and replace it with a 2D barcode, people can start reading the serial number at point of sale without trying to install RFID readers that we know is going to get overreads and misreads and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Kyle just asked a question. It's not really an RFID, it's not really an omni-channel question, but I think it's fair. What are the limitations to RFID? Metal fixtures and metal items interfere with the accuracy of scanning the tags. And your response, since you used to lead the Auburn RFID lab, is?
We know how to. We can't defy the laws of physics, but we certainly know how to use them and get around some of the things that are obstacles. And if we were having this conversation in 2003, then we would say, boy, that's a tough one. Let us figure it out. But we've done this long enough now. We know, and the lab does a great job of grading and certifying tags, right, on different products and different uses. So you can be rest assured that the tags work. We know that, if you're on metal shelves or around water, that how you need to merchandise that product, and, what type of readers you need and so forth. So where, 15, 20 years ago, that was a big issue. And we spent a lot of time then answering the question, does the technology work and under what conditions? We now have enough intelligence in the industry where that is a relatively minor issue.
I agree with you. And by the way, let's add on to that. Not only metal, we've had examples, and I won't tell you the retailer, but we were working on a project with RFID for automotive tires, right? Mm-hmm. And some of those tires are held outside the store in a big metal container. And people are like, well, this will never work. I go, no, it's going to work better. You go inside that metal container and do an RFID scan. It'll take you 13 seconds because it's going to bounce all over the place. You'll get everything before you even walk up and down the aisle. So you can leverage metal for good in this case. The other one, which is really issue, is liquids. And, people at the Auburn lab, Synthel, and some of the various RFID manufacturers are coming up with very creative ways of like putting the RFID on the inside of the metal cap. So you don't have to read through the liquid, but you can read through read the inside of the cap. Heck, they're learning how to put RFID tags on metal spray cans because they're leveraging different approaches. They're thinking outside the box to solve some of these problems. So I don't sense a day in my lifetime anywhere where entire big mass merchandiser is going to be 100% RFID tag. I don't see us tagging watermelons anytime soon. I just don't see it. Could be wrong, but I think there's some product that just really doesn't make sense either from an RF standpoint, physics standpoint, or just from a price standpoint, doesn't make sense. But certainly, you know, we've got more and more people that are solving more of these problems for sure. Yep. Cool. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I want to kind of give you the floor. What is your kind of, if you were going to give us kind of one or two omni-channel priorities, can be RFID related or can just be omni-channel. What's the messaging to the retail supply chain folks out there about what we have to be looking at and focusing on to make omni-channel successful?
Well, and you know, Mike, we've really talked about it, so I'm just going to repeat that just the importance. There's two fundamental things, and I'll send you back to the RFID house or the omni-channel house, right? That it all starts with inventory accuracy, right? It all starts with inventory accuracy, and if you don't have inventory accuracy as the foundation for your omni-channel house is not going to stand. I mean, you can try to stand it up. And I'll give you a quick example, Mike, and I know we're running out of time, but we had a retailer we were working with who their CEO said, I want us to be on this buy online, pick up in store. So they brought the lab in, we talked to them about, hey, you got to do that. You got to get to inventory accuracy. You got to go use RFID to get to that level. You got to take inventory, you know, in the, you know, on this case, probably once a week or so, you know, to get the good insight. So we talked to them, and then we didn't hear anything back from them for a while. And then saw them and said, "Hey, what happened?" So, "Oh, we're Bopus. We got our Bopus system up and going." And I said, "Really? You got RFID?" No. Yep, we got it without RFID. And I said, "Well, how'd you do that?" "Oh, well, we figured it out." And they said, "You know what we do is that, you know, we're not really sure what we have, so we build in a buffer. So we're not going to show you inventory on an item if we have less than 4 items. So if we have less than 4 items, you're not going to see it as a consumer. That way we kind of protect that consumer, don't want to come to the store."
So their solution was to hide inventory.
Their solution was to hide inventory, right? Now, many retailers do. They'll build in a buffer, right? They don't know. So, but this particular one, this is the hilarious part of this particular one, is they build in a buffer of 4 universally across all products. Their average SKU depth was 2.
Oh.
So if you go to their website, there was like thousands of items that they had. There was a handful, literally a handful of items. But hey, CEO want to step up this, we're at Bopus. So you've got to have that inventory accuracy. You've got to have that visibility to that individual item, which means serialization. So the two keys, inventory accuracy and serialization. Yep. Now, I want to read to you something, Mike, if I may.
Sure.
Because we've been talking about omni-channel, and you know, it's funny how we start getting comfortable with a term like omni-channel and what it means, right? You know, product anywhere, anytime, any place, seamless, view, one seamless view of the customer. Well, I want to read to you. I printed out here. This was McMillan from Walmart at CES talking about adaptive retail. So I don't know if Walmart coined this term, but they've been using it as adaptive retail. He described it as people-led, that Walmart is a people-led omni-channel retailer dedicated to helping people save money and live better. Perfect. And then the Walmart CTO, Suresh Kumar, went on to define what adaptive retail means because Doug McMillan had mentioned it. And here's his definition. Here's Suresh's definition. Shopping today is an offline and online experience, and Walmart is bringing the best aspects of all channels. This is adaptive retail. Every engagement is interconnected, frictionless, and exceeds expectations. We are not thinking separately about e-commerce or in-store. We are designing one adaptive, seamless experience. That's omni-channel, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, sure is.
But it'll, but now we've got a term out there, adaptive retail, that's, that we'll see if it catches hold. But I wanted to throw that out in case any of our listeners today well, what does adaptive retail mean? Well, it's really another term for omni-channel. And Suresh's definition of adaptive is a great definition of omni-channel and what we're trying to accomplish with omni-channel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, part of Doug's new vision statement that I didn't hear you say, people-led, omni-channel, and tech-powered, which is a really important piece of that, which is, retailers like Walmart are spending an enormous amount of money on tech and RFID and things like that. And they've been very public about it. So I'm not sharing anything out of context here. That's going to be a key unlock to getting their inventory accuracy so they can do that kind of stuff. Because you can build a great omni-channel platform, but if it feeds bad data, garbage in, garbage out, we learned that back in early programming days.
100%.
Dr. Hardgrave, I can't thank you enough for taking time, especially when you're in Washington, D.C. Go and take care of your day job. We appreciate your leadership so much in this. I believe you're going to be speaking at RFID Journal as well. So if you have a chance to go to RFID Journal, please say hi to Dr. Hardgrave. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, Mike, I just appreciate having me on. Thanks for continuing to evangelize inventory accuracy and RFID and serialization, because we could, retail is getting better. We can make it better, and I appreciate all your leadership in the industry. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Take care, everybody. Thank you.